Hello and welcome back. This is David from the Personal Finance Squad. We just went through section 1.3. We looked at Jasper's expenses list that included at this point not only his expenses but his supplemental items. And we got into his salary. We have a figure now that we're working with to know what his expenses are versus his income. Now at this point we're going to get into section 1.4, building a savings vehicle, which is going to further go through the leftover money. So what we're saying here is that Jasper has a surplus of money after his expenses. And so what we want to do from the next set of exercises here is to create savings vehicles for him to put his money towards so that he can save for interim things and plan for his future. So if you see right here, we're talking about building a savings vehicle. So this is just a general statement. We're going to have other vehicles we're going to go through in subsequent videos to show what those are. So at this point, Jasper has an $1,881 surplus. And just throwing some basic math out here to give you maybe a conceptual thought is that he has a margin of 40.7%. So what we're saying here is that every dollar that he makes, 60.3% of it goes towards his expenses. And that might seem like a lot, but that means he has 41% roughly, and we can really call it a profit. I don't know that there's a business in the world that's making 41% profit every month. So if you have a budget with that kind of a number that Jasper has at this point, he's doing very well. So this is good news. Hopefully you'll be in the same situation or we can get you there. Now we're going to find ways to spend that money because we know that budgets have to end up with a zero balance. So these savings vehicles are going to allocate his future because all we're talking about at this point are straight expenses. But the beauty of putting money away is there's options. You're going to hear me say that very often. It's about having options. One more thing I want to go through here, just as a side note, maybe a frame of reference about Jasper's 41% profit margin, if you will, is that the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, the CFPB, you may have heard of them. They were an agency established after the financial crisis to protect homeowners. And so they put some strict guidelines in that banks can follow. They don't follow them, which banks tend to eventually find other ways to get loans when they've used all their other options. And I don't believe that the CFPB will back them in a litigation because they didn't follow the rules. The point is, they've established a debt-to-income ratio, which is your debt divided by your gross income. And they say that if that number is higher than 43%, you can't qualify for a mortgage. So in Jasper's case, is this frame of reference that I wanted to get to. His debt, and debts aren't like the electric bill. Debts are things owed to other people, like services, like a car payment, like a student loan, things of that nature, which again we'll get into later in the book. But just for, again, a frame of reference, his number's at 26.2. And that's really good because this 41% here is really reflecting that having that kind of money left over is really good. We said here earlier that your income dictates what you can afford. So if your expenses are higher than your income, you have to change your expenses around and get things in line. So again, I hope this frame of reference helps to get you an understanding of maybe the kind of thought and process you're going to put into things as you manage your budget effectively and how the world works and other people that you deal with. A couple other points here for the reasons for building savings vehicles is that he needs to have spending money for his leisure, as we all do. You work hard. You're going to hear me say this more than once as well, as Jasper needs to pay himself. We all need to pay ourselves. You've heard people in business or maybe on shows watching people talk about their business, are you paying yourself? So we have to factor that in, and we have to put money into savings accounts to handle his day-to-day life and unforeseen events and his retirement planning. So we're going to get into those in the subsequent exercises here in the next videos. We just wanted to show you here that you have options and a lot to work with when your income's over your expenses. And those options provide you the ability to make choices in a nice free-form manner and build out your future. So I will see you in the next video, and thanks for joining.